All right, everybody, on your marks, get set, let's go. Hey, everybody, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. We're actually getting it out a little late. This is a Thursday. Going to try to get it out now. And just to mark the time, looks like we have a new Pope. Hey, welcome to another installment, yet another edition of Work Your Career Wednesday. As always, I'm Bradley Clark, thrilled, honored, and blessed that you decided to tune in and join us today. Very excited. We have an incredible guest, and for all of the fans of the show, you are going to know who this is. My goodness. He is a CEO. He is an incredible, he's just a fountain of knowledge when it comes to, well, pretty much everything. But what we're going to be talking about today is, hiring experts. He is a hiring expert. He has been all over the place with tech and pharmaceuticals. The guy is incredible. And we're going to get right to it. On your marks, get set, let's go. Please welcome my incredible guest. Oh, yes. CEO Maurice. What's up, Mo?
What's happening, man? What's happening?
Bro, well, okay, what people are going to know is that I've been dealing with technical issues on my end. So forgive the that intro, that lead in. I just, at this point, I'm like, you know what? We're going to do this show. We're going to do it. If for anything else, my therapy.
Oh man, your intro is something else, man.
Dude,
I gotta tell you, man. My buddies call me CE Mo.
CE Mo. I love that. I love that. CE Mo. Chief Executive Mo. I love it. Man, how are you doing?
Oh, dude. Spectacular.
Tell us a little bit.
Fantastic. It's unbelievable.
So tell us a little bit. I just want to give people an update because last time you were here, you had just started Project Alliance. Mm-hmm. Edge Alliance is now Project Alliance, or
Edge Alliance.
Or is it? Did it go away? Or
Edge Alliance dissolved. It was a business partnership separation, and that was part of what I agreed to. The team still exists.
The team still exists. There was a readjustment, a realignment.
Mm-hmm. We have
the former alliance.
We have when I say the team still exists, the internal team has developed into something extraordinary. I did not think that what has happened was even possible. Amy passed.
I did.
You
I'm just saying.
I appreciate that, man. Amy Paschke, she's our chief operations officer. She was able to launch a new company within a matter of 2 months. We put all of our funds together, and when I say we, I mean me, to fund payroll, and we brought on a human resources expert. She's our advisor. She has a master's in human resources. However, how often do you hear that? This Chelsea Perez, Jason Bello He's heading up the strategy for Project Alliance Blueprint, which is this business model that's out of this world. And it's going to change, in my opinion, it's positioned to change how hiring is being done, reducing attrition, saving tons of money, being able to pay employees more because you're spending less money. We're talking about, for mid-sized companies, saving millions of dollars a year. Jason Bellows helping us head that up. Chelsea Nicole, she's advising us as we go through this. Letitia, who is in the UK, is heading up our marketing efforts. And then Matt Karen, who his name I always pronounce wrong, last name anyway. He's phenomenal. He was actually a client that joined us, and he's heading up our he's the head of our perm or full-time division. And I don't think I'm missing anybody. Am I missing anyone? Letitia, Amy, Jason, me, Matt, Chelsea. Yeah, I think that's it. And it just came out of nowhere. You know what it came out of, man? It came out of belief, because we've all seen and to say these people are experts is an understatement. They're gurus. We've all seen how hiring is being done. We've all seen the pervasive waste. We've seen how professionals and candidates are treated during that process like cattle. And we wanted to change it. And it's going to happen. It's crazy.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear it. You know, I have, and you know, we've been texting back and forth. And honestly, you know, last time you were on the show, I think was August. And you know, what we had done is we had suspended Work Your Career Extra because of what I was seeing in the market. Mm-hmm. And then I got intel from private sector sources, public sector sources. And I don't mean like private or public sector, like NGOs and stuff like that. I mean governmental public sector sources that were saying what I had suspected as I started, you know, sort of, you know, going into job numbers, right? How they were inflated. And then what people were saying on the street. I posted this. I want to get your thoughts on this. And I actually went into a little deeper when I posted it on Reddit, right? Reddit was a fountain of intel, in that, you know, you're going to have people that are going to complain. They're going to, you know, talk about their bonehead decisions. And, you know, but also companies, there were real stories on there. And we talked about, I posted a few shorts about this. We talked about the guy who they said, you know, they got him really excited. The recruiter did a phenomenal job. The only thing that she did that was off was that time kills deals. So, you know, there was a week that they had to fill the job. And that's exactly what they did. You know, meanwhile, and how I know that the agency paid for the flight in for this 18-minute cluster was,
I remember that.
Right. If the flight was paid for by the company, after they had filled it, they would have canceled the flight. That's what would have happened, you know, but they didn't do that. So I know that the agency is the one that paid for the flight, and they kept the interview going because they were like, you know what? You never know. He might come in and wow them, but he didn't have a chance to wow them because he didn't even meet with the people that he was supposed to meet with. So in that length of time, in that week, they filled the job, they gave an offer, and they got a start date for the position. They just happened to really waste the candidate's time. And for a week, the candidate is super excited. He's moving back home. And the embarrassment of that happening, I mean, personally, I've never seen anything like that. I'd never heard anything like this. That's why it just sticks out so much. But anyway, there's stuff like that happens. And then people within our investigation as it started, people were just, I mean, we're talking engineers with, from great schools, anywhere from 5 years to 25 years. And on the 25 year, I can kind of get it, right? But we're talking hotshot engineers that, for whatever reason, were on the market, and they would submit their resume, and the algorithm or whatever it was would, within seconds, send the thanks for shopping email. And so I found out that there were companies actually ghost posting, meaning they were putting up fake jobs like unethical recruiters used to do in the past. They were inventory recruiting.
Yeah, and you remember that
guy? Man. I mean, you can't get more. I mean, it's like recruiters have a hard enough time. Let's just pile it on.
Yeah,
with putting up, you know what I mean? With putting up fake jobs and all of this other stuff. Yeah. Well, that became practice, and it was evidenced when at the DNC, there was an NBC News reporter that was interviewing the Secretary of Labor, and earlier that day, they had put out that they had created 118,000 jobs. In that interview at the DNC, Secretary of Labor didn't know that the number had changed to 12,000. 12,000 jobs.
Wow.
So, and I don't know. And
the Secretary of Labor didn't know this.
Didn't know the number.
Wow.
And so, and the reporter said, well, the number, we're hearing that it's 12,000 jobs. And she starts going off on the then candidate Trump's team and how they're liars and how they this and that. And the reporter's like, no, these are your numbers. They're not his numbers. They're your numbers. She didn't know. Point is that throughout the country, there was all, and I'm being really long-winded here to set this up.
No, that's okay.
Those numbers were deliberately inflated, and there's several causes for it. We're coming out of the Great Resignation. We're coming out of, just if you see inflation going sky high, but if you can keep job numbers up, no recession in the public mind, right? And that's what they did. And what the result of this was an incredibly tired workforce. And I'm not talking about just blue collar workers. I'm talking about, friends of ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That are going, I have been an executive. I was an executive that has a contract. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a contract executive, meaning I work for the company and I have a contract set for this many $1 million, this many stock, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have other people, everybody else. And it was just such an awful time. There was really nothing. There was nothing funny about it. Right. And that's what my show was going to be, was to point these things out in the ridiculous nature that companies do, and or not nature, but in the practices that they participate in for absolutely no other reason other than process. Then you
Well,
have then you have well, hold on. Then you
go ahead.
have HR people
Mhm.
who and any HR people, if they're honest, they will agree with this. I'm an HR person.
Mhm.
HR does not know how to recruit.
Well, that's not
They
what they're
have
there for.
That's not what they're there for.
They're there as representatives of the resource of human beings.
And to protect everyone involved.
Absolutely. They have a
To protect them.
fiduciary responsibility.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Recruiting is not one of their
No,
it shouldn't be one of their responsibilities.
it's not what they went to school for,
Not what
or
they went to school.
they got hired for. Recruiting,
1,000%.
recruiting, Brad, as you know it, some people glorify recruiting, or you have candidates that are on the market that are upset because they don't get a return call. People don't let them,
Right.
recruiters don't let them know. Some recruiters don't let them know what's going on in the hiring process. And the problem is that you think the recruiter's job is to give people jobs. That's 10% of what they do. The other 90%, if they're good, is letting people know they didn't get the job.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difficult place to be, to deliver bad news 90% of the time.
That's right.
And I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this earlier. How many recruiters out of 100 recruiters, how many recruiters do you think will call the candidate to let them know they got the job?
2.
No, to let them know they got the job.
Oh, all of them.
All of them, every single one of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those 100, how many are going to call the other 30 people that applied for that job or that they recruited to let them know that they didn't get the job?
2.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's a difficult place to be. And when your job isn't, when people, recruiters that get people jobs and deliver all this wonderful news, but that's only a part of the job. So
Well,
it's a
and
difficult
then,
place to be.
it's totally difficult. And you have HR people that are hiring talent acquisition folks,
Mhm.
either out of the HR world or right out of school.
Sure.
And when you have somebody from the agency world that is a hunter,
hmm
when TA is set up to gather, that can be a problem for the HR person for some reason. And I put a post out the other day because there's so much that's going wrong in our business. So much of it. And I used to welcome it. I loved it because that just made me look better. You know what I mean? I'm like, when your enemy's making
Well,
mistakes, don't interrupt them.
you're young, when you're younger, and ambition is
Right.
you're full of ambition,
Yeah.
and your competition is giving you fuel for that ambition. Yeah,
Go for it.
it doesn't help the workforce though.
Doesn't help the
And
workforce.
and and I
And yeah,
and I think the reason behind why human resources can be kind of at times set against the talent acquisition that comes from the staffing world or whatnot, is because when the pressure comes down as to what's happening with the positions that are being open, talent
Mhm.
acquisition isn't getting pressurized. It's the head of human resources. VPs, the CMO, the chief
Yeah.
financial officer are like, hey, Mr. Head of HR Clark, the hell's going on with our positions, man? You
Right.
know?
Yeah. And they're not understanding that. I mean, it takes a lot of time
Yeah. Oh yeah.
to do this, and
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
really beyond. So I'm in healthcare now,
Yeah.
and I'm shocked. I've been shocked at how sort of risk averse a lot of people are in that world. And I
What
do
do
understand
what
it.
do you mean by that?
Well, so we're home health, right?
Mhm.
And so for the past 3.5 years, you've had a lot of people that would rather um, sort of go to a hospital or a clinic,
Sure.
even if they're getting paid less,
Mhm.
because there's benefits involved, or there's I don't know, they feel that there is more of there's more stability there, when in actuality there's more stability with us. Now I'm now let's just say what we do is different. How we conduct our business is different. I would say that it is the antithesis to what I've seen in that marketplace.
Mhm.
A lot of there's a lot of layers that agencies will have for their people, and in that kind of world, it's very similar to like a contract. And in tech, for example, you
Mhm.
have a lot of people on contract. The problem is that there are so many layers that you have people that have been, just like tech people, have been jaded beyond belief because they've been burned. With us, we're directly linked to a major hospital system, like the hospital system
Mhm.
in Louisiana. So we don't have that problem. And the other thing is that we're not an agency. They work for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're not an agency. Um, so, but dealing with people who, for one, have never heard of home health is very similar to a grad student who doesn't know what he doesn't know in
Right.
tech, right?
Right.
So that's not the problem of overcoming that, but we had to readjust what strategy we were going to go with. And the one that we have now is working out so well. Also, um, with what we're doing in the marketplace in terms, I'm guest speaking, we're doing lunch and learns, at these universities. We've picked three that we've been doing great at. And
Brown
one of
bag.
our,
Is that where you got that from?
say again?
Did you get it from the brown bag sessions we used to do?
No, it's funny, and it's the same thing.
It's exactly the
Um,
same thing. It sounds
we
like.
just made a hire from a career fair that we did in December.
Mm.
Just made a hire, hired him, and he just took his boards, I think, a couple days ago. So he's good to go.
Mm.
And what's interesting is that the time frame from cradle to hire is about the same as oil and gas, because our strategy is uh, going into universities and partnering with faculty, and getting in with these students before they graduate.
Yeah, you guys are doing what's referred to in the industry as passive recruiting. So you're getting ahead of
In a way.
you're getting ahead of the mark before it happens, which
And
which a lot of companies and the U.S. government misses out on. You
they
know,
miss out on it. What we're doing is very much akin to oil and gas.
Mm.
So oil and gas will go and begin relationships with graduate students, in chemical engineering or something like that.
Yeah,
And if they like us, we like them. We want to be invested in their future, and that's the difference.
yeah,
Is that I am not interested in, number one, hiring somebody that's going to be worrying about, their mortgage when they're with my patient. That's a huge thing. So we do really well in terms of we pay really, really well out the gate,
Hmm.
right? That's number one.
Well,
Also,
I think it's incredible that you guys have somebody positioned to hire prior to their board exams, and then just
it's
pull the trigger when they pass their boards. That's um, it speaks one for the direction of the industry because
mhm,
telehealth is going through the roof,
through the
uh,
roof.
and two, your strategy, which in the industry is unheard of. It's 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 very much when the iron strikes, then we move.
It's very reactionary.
And what you end up getting is a workforce, like you said, that's working at their job, worrying about how they're going to pay their mortgage
Mhm.
for the first month or two,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
And not and they go through what I call CYA classes.
See,
So CYA,
okay, you got to tell
cover
me.
your
Cover your okay, God.
right.
It's early, man. I'm sorry.
8 weeks. 8 weeks, these people
Yeah,
without getting paid. Now they have now what's funny is that their hire date will be, when they start, but they're not earning any money when they're watching videos for 8 weeks.
yeah,
It's not to train them. It's to cover their AWS.
yeah.
And we don't do that. We train them, but I got them partnered with. You gotta understand too. Been around 10 years. We have attrition rate of 2%. So we have
That's
senior.
incredible.
Is that? I mean, it's now.
That's
What does
amazing.
that tell you?
Well, it says that you're conducting business with intention.
And integrity.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I don't want my PT. Now we need a PTA like immediately. So now we're getting into the things are snowballing in a way that we're going to be whole very, very quickly. And I would over the next 2 years, this tent is expanding in amazing ways. Now, when you hire a PT, for example, I have to have a PTA because that PT is going to supervise the PTA. It's a little bit different than nurses and doctors, right?
yeah.
But again, I'm saying all that. I don't mean this to be like a super long commercial for Jane's Physical Therapy, which we're going to get to in a minute.
Okay.
And but what I want to emphasize is the way I always looked at this business was different than what we were taught at RHI. That said, the RHI Foundation was great for you and I.
Yeah.
And then we
Well.
just built on it. We just built on that.
Yeah.
And throughout our experience, unlike most people, we see what worked, we see what didn't, and instead of complaining about it, we made roads to improve it.
Well, there was no, you know, yeah. I don't want to do a commercial for them either, but there was
Oh
no room.
no, no, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was no room for failure. So you had
Mm-hmm.
to be competitive. The training was little to none. The training
Right.
was get on the phone, and if you don't, you're going to fail and you're not going to have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about that kind of commoditized approach is that I think it taught us to have a purpose behind what we
Mm-hmm.
were doing. Otherwise, get out.
I swear, Mo, if I see one more recruiter on LinkedIn with 3,000 likes or reactions, 1 million views, I, oh, this guy He has a platform. And I'm telling you, he put a video out that had him taking notes so you could hear kind of like peanuts in his ear. Oh, no, wait a minute. This is another one. He told the guy, he said, well, tell me about yourself. And so he's in there, he's taking notes, not listening. Well,
Right.
I've been a computer engineer for 5 years and this and that. And these guys going on, and he's like, what company was that? Okay.
What company? How many people? Who did you report into? What was his name? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then his mind starts to drift about pizza, and he's got the nerve to say, well, I wonder when this interview will be over. I wonder, uh, I wonder what, and his mind's drifting. And the whole video is how tedious it is to take notes. I'm like, are you a sorcerer? I could see that maybe if you're a sorcerer, but my God, what in the hell has happened to this industry? Right now, we have an opportunity to
Don't get mad.
remake.
Don't get mad at
Oh,
me, man.
pissed. I'm not. I am so pissed off because you know what? We went through hell in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
In this business.
Yeah.
And you know what? We went through hell in a lot of ways for this business.
Yeah.
I started this show because I wanted recruiters, and and we have a 3-pronged approach. I want the leader, the one that's employed, one that isn't employed, and I also want I want the recruiter to learn something. I've had Amy Miller on. I've had other people on that value. If a company is not prioritizing hiring, then I don't know what, as part of their strategy, I don't know what they're doing. And if they're not partnering with their TAs, you know what? Just get a relationship with an agency and let that agency be an arm of your recruiting company. Because if you allow HR to hire recruiters, you are going to get that guy who's more interested in making TikTok videos than filling the recs in his pipeline.
Oh, that's, yeah. I see. It's, again, it just kind of harkens back to what the real job of a recruiter is. Somebody that enjoys the job. They enjoy getting people work. They enjoy the satisfaction of getting people work, but they also understand that part of what they do is being able to deliver bad news in a kind and
constructive way.
Well, kind and reverent. And if you don't if you don't understand that, then you should probably be doing something else.
Anything
It's
else.
in my opinion, because it's
Yeah.
difficult. I mean, you and I both know that our business at our former company created suicidal tendencies in some.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And I
you and I
saw
know
that. It's
that
true.
directly. I've
Yeah.
seen it. I've seen it a few times, which tells you that it's a job that you have to. The people that are good at this job don't celebrate their wins. They just don't, because they know that the important thing in doing in conducting our business and doing it right are the steps that we take. That's what we rejoice in, is doing each step properly, doing it in the right order, asking the right questions, and treating people with reverence.
That's right.
If you don't understand that, or you can't do that, then perhaps you should be doing something else. I
Well, Mo,
love I love my business. I absolutely love what I do. I'm happy my mom told me to do this. I'm happy that my wife has supported me in this throughout the years, because again, it hasn't been easy, especially And if you're doing this business, if you're going to be in this business, you have to understand that there's a time when, the dot-com boom and you're hiring and you're making a lot of money and making deals and it's fun and the team is and then there's a time when that bullpen is so quiet in terms of rejoice, because it's difficult, because each deal comes by way of blood, sweat, and tears. So you
In
have to
Houston
understand the
alone,
cycles. Yeah.
in Houston alone, I think the number was, I think there was some, and if this, I hope I'm probably butchering this, but I know the layoff number roughly. So there was, oh God, I think they said 12,000 or 12,000 recruiters, give or take,
Recruiters that were laid
in
off.
Houston. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about salespeople and recruiters. I'm just talking about recruiters,
Yeah.
which you probably lump in sources in that.
Yeah.
5,000 of them were laid off, and that's Houston alone.
Yeah.
5,000.
Yeah.
And then, there's so much that's happened over the past 5 years that we can get into and we can blame, but I see companies coming out, and let's just be real. It does not matter if everybody's happy when the company's growing. Oh, we're growing.
Mm-hmm.
Pain point. We had layoffs. Pain point, because you're going to have to refill those jobs in some capacity, right?
The work has to get done.
Has to get done. Like, for example, and you know what? Within that, I think it was 2024, PNC laid off 15,000. 15,000. And you didn't hear a blip about it on CNBC. But that happened. And anyway, so then you have sort of this inventory recruiting mindset that you can do it ethically, but the most unethical way to do it is to put up a fake job. So then why did they put up the fake job? Well, they can say that people are hiring. You can say that, oh yeah, we're hiring. So that's why on the state level, departments of labor would call into companies to get their numbers. What are you hiring for? Who are you hiring? How many? And they would call every week. A friend of mine is the CEO of a company in town. He used to get, he got his calls starting in July. They happened every Wednesday. Now he's an agency with a lot of people on billing. So, on the surface, he's doing very well and he's always hiring.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
But then you got Intel, who laid off 20,000. I think that was in June of last year. You see what I'm saying? Look, there is so much to this business that has so many layers, and companies, I don't care what it is, if they are hiring, it is a pain point that nobody wants to do. They don't want to do it. It is time consuming. It's heartbreaking. And then they wonder, well, we're so innovative. Why don't we have people lining up around the block? Well, you may or may not have people lining up around the block. But if the candidate experience is one thing, but the candidate marketplace talks. And if companies don't realize that their very first touch point is that TA, they are going to lose and continue to lose every time. Well, and honestly, hiring is going to be an event instead of a day. The event should be if they don't hire someone.
Well, it's time consuming if you're one, waiting till the last minute. Two, if you're not doing all the steps right. If you're not doing all the steps properly all the time.
They don't.
And if you're not constantly at your job in the market, talking to people, developing. I think developing relationships is kind of a hackneyed term, but developing a network of people that you know and that trust you to tell the truth.
Right.
And
That's right.
that, yeah, because it's not telling the truth means that you're not always going to have good news.
And now you have a jaded workforce because for 3.5 years, powers that be were covering up the fact that nobody was hiring. In fact, they were laying off. So now our job is even harder. Now, there were industries that weren't affected, right? I mean, tech got kicked in the teeth.
Tech got kicked in the teeth.
You know what I mean?
Biotech, there's been a ton of layoffs.
Lately, right?
Well, lately, and it's past 2-3 years.
Past 2-3 years.
2-3-4 years. I know.
Now, pharma did pretty well. And I know oil and gas did well.
Pharma did okay, but there were sectors with major layoffs in
oh, that's true.
Yeah. And what happens is when you have, especially these larger pharma companies, when you have massive layoffs, you get a market inundated with highly experienced, highly educated candidates that all of a sudden realize they can't make their mortgage because they've been paid so well in the past. And the problem isn't just when companies start making money. The problem is forecasting and figuring out a hiring strategy. It's like you alluded to before.
Come on.
If you're building a company and that's not your first line of defense, then you're doing it wrong.
That's
and
right.
What's going to happen is as business ebbs and flows, like it will, you're not going to be aligned with a successful team, because when you're hiring and laying off and hiring and laying off, what does it do? It destroys the morality of the team. So you have to forecast, much like owning your own business. You got to know that there's going to be times when it's lean, and if you're spending money, hand over fist, when it's flowing, when business ebbs, you're going to be screwed. So you have to forecast for that, and especially hiring. One of my mentors told me long ago, I'll never forget this. Ingram Lossner, I love him. He was an amazing cat. He's a English dude. He looked like almost a handsome Dudley Moore. Maybe not so handsome. I don't want to give him too much credit. And this cat, we went to karaoke night, and I love singers.
Absolutely.
You got a great voice, and no, by looking at this guy, no one knew that this would come out of his mouth. He started singing Elton John, "Don't Let the Sun." It's like, oh my God, where did this come from? But Ingram told me, Mo, it is and will always be about the people.
That's right.
Always.
And
if that's what your focus is, and you realize the message behind that, then you're going to conduct business differently. You're going to conduct hiring differently. There's going to be a strategy, because it's not always about the bottom line. There was this company out there, a biotech company, and they had this model that in the past the market had proven would be successful. It was just it was beautiful. It was a therapeutic area that had all of these wonderful indications behind it, and it was set to be successful. They went to JP Morgan, and they had the wrong people pitching this idea. And because of this thing that can generate massive revenue, because it didn't become successful not because of the molecule. It didn't become successful because of the people. So it is and will always be about the people. And when you realize that you're in an industry that is about people, you're going to start treating them like you would treat your neighbor or your parents. You're going to show them respect. You're going to speak kindly to them. You're going to speak honestly to them, and you're going to do your job.
Well, and you're certainly not going to let your mind wander while taking notes that nobody will read.
Pizza.
Let's talk about hiring real quick. All right, we have, like we've been saying, Jane's Physical Therapy. We are hot now. Check this out, Mo. You're going to love this. When I go to Baton Rouge, right, or when I go to New Orleans, I stop in a town called Jennings. Okay, there's a place called Eber's. I have their hat somewhere, and they make things like cracklins. It's chicken, and you know, it's so good. Cracklins, and they have a little restaurant inside this Valero, and it's my stop. Well, guess what? We're hiring in that town. It's a little town, but we are very much on the hunt for a DPT in Jennings Crowley area. Get in touch with me right away. Okay. We'll have the links in the description where you can get in touch with me, or, you know, if you're seeing this on LinkedIn, just send me a DM. You got my number coming across the screen, and to take a look at who we are and what we do in a little way, go to www.janespt.com. Email me, bradley@janespt.com, and give me a call, 713-364-8777. Listen, not only that, we've made some hires in New Orleans. I still need more. And guess what? I need a PTA urgently right now in New Orleans. Okay. So get in touch with me right away. Mo, let me ask you a question.
Do you think the PTAs would recommend that you eat those cracklins?
Probably not. But look, there's a really cool lady there. Her name's Carolyn, and she is just like she's like that Southern mom. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And every time I go, because I go there so often, Brad, come on. And so I was on my way back home, and it was her birthday. And so I sang happy birthday to her. Oh my goodness gracious. So this and that. And then I told her about, you know, she said, well, are you a singer? I said, well, you know, used to be. And I told her about a few of the songs that she would probably know. Turns out she's been a fan for years.
Oh, wow.
And it, you know, I couldn't
you know my favorite. You know my favorite song.
I know. But, so
Penguin with a floaty, man.
That's right. Penguin in a floaty.
In a floaty. That's a beautiful song.
Well, our comic book that we had related to that did pretty well too. But yeah, you can find Penguin in a floaty on YouTube and Spotify and anywhere. But we are hiring.
What if you know, it's funny is when you say Southern mom, I think of my grandmother. She was she was born in South Bend, Indiana, and I think what if recruiters or people in HR treated everyone like a Southern mom would?
Well, how about this? You're going to be treating people. There are people that have gotten hurt in any business. Yeah. And so they can spot, and I put this in a post actually the other day. I'm going to read it. I want to read it to you on the air to get your reaction. But you got people that are hurt. They're like scared animals. And they're like people on Reddit. I think it's there. It's not there for a solution. It's just there to vent and, you know, sort of complain about things, and that's okay. But you're around people that have been hurt, that are questioning their choices in life. And if you're the difference that makes them keep going, that's what you want to be. That's what you want to be. I am so tired of this business, any business, treating their recruiters like order takers. And if you're going to treat them like an order taker, I guarantee you're going to treat the people that you're trying to hire as commodities. And that's not what we do at Jane's Physical Therapy. I know that's not what you do at Project Alliance. And so, guys, listen, absolute opposite. We are not. Here's the other thing too, and there's different things. Not everybody has the same offer. We want to invest in you. Where I'm not advertising what we're going to do to get all of my recs filled with people that aren't me, and I'm not loyal to them. Listen, we are different in so many ways, and we can't wait to talk with you. That said, if you need anything recorded, documented, if you want a podcast done, go to www.whitehuskyfilms.com. They are amazing. I'm still working with them. They helped me launch Work Your Career Wednesday. Incredible people. And now we're even advertising in Times Square. Can you believe that? You can get, we'll make sure that you're actually on a billboard in Times Square. It's kind of a big deal for a small company, and absolutely. And that would be something that maybe Project Alliance, maybe we could talk about. But anyway,
what were you said you were going to read me something to get my.
Let me get through with the commercials. Okay. And so anyway, go to whitehuskyfilms.com, dream, create, record in that order. And when you choose White Husky, you will be so glad you did. And just for fun and honorable mention, Puente Coffee. Have you tried Puente Coffee?
No.
I have to send you some Puente.
Okay. I would love that.
You know what Puente means?
Point?
Point. Yes, that's right. And it is the point of drinking coffee. Puente, they roast their beans in-house and they don't burn them like a lot of, big box stores do, like the one I'm drinking now. But they're so cool. If you go and visit them in Austin, they sell their coffee out of a little trailer in this park. Oh, it's so cool. And they are great. Everyone there is wonderful. And I am still so thrilled, honored, and blessed that they decided to hitch their trailer to Work Your Career Wednesday. So go to Puente Coffee Co. on Instagram, and you can find us. Do a Google search, Puente Coffee Company, and you'll be able to order. All right. Mo, you're awesome. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Honestly, I am so passionate about what we do, and it's sort of been relegated to what it's sort of become. I am working to turn the tide on that. Now, I'm an HR now, talent acquisition. I am a strategist, but the strategy is really simple. It's really simple, Mo. You know what we do? We hire the best people that want to change lives. As their life is being changed, I want people that are interested in changing the world. I want people that are interested in going into someone's house, because that's what I'm doing now. They go into someone's home after think about this. Mo, you've had a stroke and you're trying to learn how to walk again. So the doctor prescribes physical therapy, but you guys can't go to the hospital. You can't go to some clinic. And usually these physical therapy clinics are in a gym. I kid you not, they're in a gym. So what we do is we come into your home and we get you going. And the fact is that, we deal with TBIs, we deal with strokes, we deal with post-surgical, we deal with geriatrics, we deal with all that. And there's some things that can't be fixed, right? But we teach people how to go on living. I can't think of, there's very few things that a man will have to deal with if they can't be a man anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
And what we do is we go into these people's homes, into their turf, into their environment and surrounding, and we get them in a position to live their life. That's what I'm interested in.
that's a wonderful thing. I love that.
It's incredible.
I love
And working with us, I'm not asking you to do it for free. I'm not an NGO. And I'm not going to say, well, just if you'll just bless them. We are investing in your future. Talking directly to the DPT that's watching this right now. We're investing in your future if you're interested in investing in your future and investing your time and skills with us. We'll invest in you if you want to invest in us. If you don't, please, there's plenty of hospitals that may or may not hire you. Go for it. I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in the one that has a need and a desire and a passion to change the face of healthcare, at least on the physical therapy side. You can be who you are. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm not asking you any of that. I want someone that's interested and passionate in helping people achieve what they couldn't achieve on their own. That's just me. Now, I want to read this, and then I want to talk about Project Alliance.
Sure.
And go on for as long as I'm so mad. No.
Don't be mad, man. Don't be mad. It's okay to be passionate. Don't.
Well, I'm passionate and I'm pissed off.
Yeah, don't let it. It's better to be pissed off than pissed on. So
one of the great things, recruiting hell. Job hunting continues to be disheartening. I mean, just finished 5 interviews with a clinical sponsor, one-on-one phone with a recruiter. The way companies are doing this, oh, look at this. Oh, someone got an offer with some advice that I gave her. Fantastic. Took her a year and a half, but she kept on going and she did it in Q1. That's what I kept on telling people. Just wait. Well, I guess we're in Q2 now, but I said, just wait. We're gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. But anyway, hold on. I'm getting to it, Mo. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Now this is kind of a long one.
Okay.
And I posted this on Reddit, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
I was going to say something. I'm glad I didn't. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I know. All right. So, and I found out that you have to, before you do anything on this platform, you have to preface your quals, right? So, okay. I've been in recruiting and the TA world for over 25 years. Yeah, I'm probably a year away from get off my lawn, but I digress. I've worked with engineers of all flavors in tech, oil and gas, and now I'm an HR director and talent acquisition strategist in healthcare. I've led and built teams for agencies and in-house TA. And to my team's credit, they've been highly successful. My philosophy mainly focuses on sticking to the basics first. If you stay there, you don't have to go back to them. What I'm seeing now is not many people understand what the basics are. So how can you reach them? But more importantly, how can you teach them? For this post, I'm going to vent a little, so stick with me. With that in mind, I've often been asked, what do you do that's any different than anyone else? Well, this is how I've always looked at recruiting and TA. To be clear, I'm no guru, a know-it-all, or whatever you want to call it. I'm just a guy who learned from the best. And what I learned from the best, what works and what doesn't. And from what I'm seeing, whatever they're teaching people ain't working. So let's take TA. It takes work, but the difference in the way I structure TA and the way many companies wrongly view it is this. If I've done my job right, candidates apply because they want to. Now remember, HR sets up TA to gather. I can't stand that. The people that I've hired for TA have always been hunters, but for the sake of everyone else, okay. if I've done my job right, candidates apply because they want to. The candidate marketplace talks, and I view that as paramount on the list of importance. Some don't. Then they wonder why candidates aren't lining up around the block to work for them. They don't get it, and the TAs that are working there and that they hire are just happy they haven't been fired yet. Quote unquote candidate experience doesn't start with the candidate. It starts with the people finding the candidate and or sifting through the resumes. And here's a bonus. A company's TA, and we've covered this in a minute ago, a company's TA team is the first marketing touch point for candidates, essentially serving as the face of your brand to the world. But we'll dive deeper into that in another post. Since most TA teams are set up by HR people who don't know how to recruit and they focus on the all-powerful job description, it's guided by how well they gather. So we'll approach it with that in mind. Most companies get people applying because candidates feel like they have to, due to desperation, the economy, a bad day. How many times have we had that happen? Urgency or poor planning. They see a job posting, click submit, no connection, no intent. The truth is, many companies treat hiring like a root canal, painful, expensive, and they only prioritize when it becomes unavoidable. Some even seem to have a taste for attrition, and their approach to TA reflects it. I mean, am I right?
Keep going, man.
Okay. If your talent team is treated like glorified order takers, don't be surprised when they operate like it. If hiring isn't a part of an overall strategy, the battle is already lost. When they don't treat their TAs and team lead or whatever the title happens to be, and then that goes to even chief recruiting officer, if you want to call it that, or chief talent acquisition officer, or whatever it is. At the same time, if they're not treated as hiring experts and partners, well, good luck. At the same time, if they're not an SME and the company isn't interested in making them one, make sure they have sharpened pencils, ink-filled pens, charging cables, and nimble fingers for all those notes that may or may not be relevant. They can't be what they're not taught. Without understanding the why behind the why, it won't matter how many notes they take or how many videos they post on TikTok about how tedious it is. You may as well make the job a contract and call an agency.
Yeah.
Now, switching jobs is hard. People leave behind what they know. This is real short. People leave behind what they know, the respect they've earned, the relationships they've built, and sometimes leadership feeds that fear. Like an abusive partner whispering, no one else will value you like we do. Whether they mean to or not, companies can become that toxic spouse, keeping people stuck because change is inconvenient. When you're hiring correctly, people don't feel manipulated, they feel called. They don't need convincing, they see alignment, purpose, and possibility. So don't just fill roles, create opportunity. Do that, and people will sprint towards you. Not because they're running from something, but because they finally found something worth running to.
Absolutely. So I love that I'm this far away from get off my lawn.
Right. I'm a year away.
My buddy Jason is there.
Lammers?
Oh yeah.
Lammers is get off my lawn now? I can't even imagine.
He's getting all day long. I think he's been there for years, and he's younger than I am. But my thoughts are this, and when I'm thinking about what you were saying in that, I'm thinking about our model at Project Alliance. We have our consulting model where if you want to bring on, stout clinical development, medical monitor, we can help you do that. We can help you bring on safety people, everything, from phase 1 through post-marketed studies. We've got experts in that. But when you're talking on that post, it speaks to the blueprint project that we're doing. It's in stealth mode, but it doesn't having having good talent and retaining that talent. It starts with the TA, but it doesn't end there. One of our experts, Jason Bello, has developed this, what he calls a white glove approach. Were you aware? Here's an interesting statistic. Were you aware that if you don't have a proper onboarding model, that within the first year, if you're in an industry that's thriving, that in the first year, you're going to lose 36% of your workforce.
Yes.
And that onboarding model is everything from making people aware of the structure and how the company communicates, the whole 9 yards. If you're able to avoid attrition to a degree, because it's always going to happen, but if you're able to avoid attrition to a 2% model, that's incredible. Then your company will develop with purpose. You'll have people that actually really want to do their jobs, not just to keep their jobs, but to help the company grow. If you can foster that within your organization, then you're going to be able to sustain through the difficult times. You're going to have people within your organization that really believe in what you're doing. And those people are going to continue not only to thrive with you, because I think my philosophy has always been, especially for consulting, the best consultants in the world make themselves obsolete. They do their job so well that it creates an obsolescence in that role.
Right.
So as an organization, if you're taking that mentality, you're not only going to help people grow within the organization, but as they leave, they're going to take that legacy with them somewhere else.
That's exactly right.
And it's so important. It's so important. And when you have hiring managers or HR or talent acquisition that aren't treating people with reverence, what's going to happen is they're going to realize at some point these people that are making decisions are only candidates that happen to be working, because at some point they're going to be out of job and they're going to realize, oh, now I'm in that same place. And is it like Tyson said, if you're not humble, life is going to humble you.
Everybody got a plan until you get knocked in the mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that post because of the comic relief in it. But also we do have to change the way that we're doing things.
We have to change it. We have to change it. And like I said last time, it only takes one.
Yeah. There's a reason, Brad. There's a reason why the staffing and recruiting industry is I think last year, $49 billion industry in the US alone. There's a reason. And you think about it. Why is that? Why is that?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Why is it? Attrition, maybe? Maybe it has something to do with it?
Well, you have cyclical things, right? So every time a company lays off in one department, they're hiring in another.
Yeah.
And you can't automate this. They're trying. Like, for example, filling out a job application is ridiculous. Why do they do it? Because they're trying to filter out third parties that are trying to scam their way in. After all, I know Prince Harry is out of work, but he's not going to be on Dice. So, you know what I mean?
I haven't looked at Dice in ages.
But they're not gonna. The other reason is is because they're trying to get market data for their own company. So for a while, when you had to hire a certain amount of this or a certain amount of that, then that's when the really embarrassing and, in my view, absolute asking questions that you and I would have been fired for 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
They're using it for different things.
It's still happening. I don't mean to interrupt, but in California, it's illegal to ask about salary history, and
it is legal to ask about who they're sleeping with.
Well,
I mean, are you serious?
I don't think so. But no, yeah. But,
you want me to send you one?
Oh,
you want me to send you one?
I do.
I'm not speaking tongues. It pisses me off so bad.
But the question is still being asked, and California, and I don't know what other states are doing it, but I think when it comes to
Washington is doing it. For example, when I was with Immubit, and I think it was 2023 or 4, there was a law passed. I think it was inside of another bill where certain states required companies to have salary transparency.
Right.
So, which was really a problem for us because, again, you're in a situation where I'm going to probably have to pay a chemical engineer in California more than I'm going to pay them in Texas.
Right.
But it all equals out. Problem also is if I wanted to pay them more, now I have to deal with another employee that may or may not have earned that either works for us or we're about to hire, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't have to tell you, but it was, I think Colorado did it, California did it, Washington did it, and I think New York.
Well, the reason it's being done is because the gender inequity in salary has been pervasive for years. I mean, you think about it. How you ask a guy, how much did you make at your last job? Well, I made 100,000. Okay, well, we'll offer you 110. And that same company asks a woman, how much did you make at your last job? Well, 90,000. Okay, well, we'll offer you 100. And that inequity will continue over the years because of that. So if you're not able to ask that question, and you actually have to think about how you're going to pay people and develop a strategy and a methodology behind how you pay people. And you have to forecast that, and you have to come up with a plan rather than shooting from the hip every time and trying to save money on salaries. Then you may have a better chance to be successful in your hiring strategy.
I will tell you, I've never seen it.
You got to think it out. No, it's.
I've never seen it. I've never participated in it. I will say, I mean, honestly, I'm telling you, I never have.
Trust and believe, brother.
I know. I believe you.
No. Trust and believe. Project Alliance is doing it.
What are you talking about? No. Let me clarify. I have never seen, honestly, I have never seen a gender pay gap.
Oh,
furthermore,
kidding
I
me?
have never, and I've never seen a. Well, I'll tell you this. Like when I was at Immubit, and again, and you know me, man. I don't care what people are.
Yeah.
That's not,
I know.
but we were like that wasn't even an issue. Like I mean, if you want to look at it, we had highly paid engineers that were female. So I'm just telling you and I believe you, I trust you, and I know that you've dealt with it. All I'm saying, and I'm not debating the point. All I'm saying is I've never seen it, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. Obviously, if there's an issue where people have seen it, then it's an issue. I'm
Well,
just saying I've
if
never seen it.
if
And I've never understood it. I've
I don't
never
know.
understood it. It
No.
doesn't make sense to me. I have seen some of the most talented engineers, and they're women. I've seen, you know what I mean? I just don't.
Well,
Just
it's
that whole
you
debate
know,
really gets on my nerves because I just
when you have any industry, and you look at who dominates that industry, who dominates it is going to be who's paid the most. Period. End of story. Who dominates it is going to be who's going to get the promotions most. I mean, my daughter says that she thinks I'm a feminist, and I take that as a compliment. I don't know if it's entirely true, but I see that all the time, Brad, and not just gender, not just pay inequity, but opportunity inequity.
really.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Huh.
You think about a boardroom or a meeting, and you've got directors and VPs and so on and so forth, and you've got a guy there that says, "Listen, you guys need to do your job. This isn't happening. This isn't happening." But you put a woman in that same role or saying that same thing, the comments that are going to be made about her are going to be a lot different than the comments made about that man. And this is why California set up that law that you can't ask about pay, because of the inequity. And I'm glad they did it. It makes it a lot more difficult for people like me when I'm trying to negotiate salaries and stuff like that. I can't ask the same questions I did.
Let me ask you a question. Let me
But
ask you a question.
it's fair.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Sure.
So going on that analogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter if a man or a woman gets called out their name differently? They're still going to get called out their name. But does it matter? like you know what I mean? Like the names are going to be different, but they still going to get called out their name.
No, what's going to happen?
You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, it's going to be less often that a man is called out.
Come on, you remember, bro?
No, I don't. To answer your question,
I'm turning red.
No, to answer your question, no, I
don't. Hold on. Do you remember that guy?
I don't think it matters.
Do you remember that guy?
If you're going to be called out your name, you're going to be called out your name. But what? Go ahead.
I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
If you got a guy who's saying the numbers are down. Remember the guy at our former company? He was a regional VP. Regional VP? No, he was over. He always talked about Raj Khanna. Like that was his boy in New York. Like he loved Raj Khanna. And he would come to our office. He'd go to your office and he looked like Alec Baldwin from Glengarry Glen Ross. He had the Rolex. You remember this guy?
I vaguely remember him. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember a lot of guys that look like that.
Okay. Fair enough.
That company.
Fair enough.
And
fair
enough.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Fair. Right. Well, I don't know what happened to some of them. I hope they're still alive. You know what I mean? I really do. But that guy would come and he would. I really busted my tail. Yeah. One, to just destroy Lisa Wong. I wanted San Jose to I wanted to be the one to do it. But this guy would come and he would pull this and I just didn't feel we deserved it. I'm like, man, you go save that. You'll go to Scripps Ranch. They're pulling the same numbers I'm pulling, but they got 12, 13 people. I got 2. So miss me with your BS, right?
Right.
I wanted to shut him up. And I didn't want him coming. And I remember Tom Call would say, "Oh, this guy's coming. Get ready." And I'm like, because Tom got it, right?
Yeah.
Because if contract wouldn't do it. So my point is, it wouldn't matter if it was this guy or what was that woman? I really liked her though. She was regional VP for NorCal, the
Yeah,
blonde.
I know you're talking.
Remember her?
Yeah,
I really liked her.
yeah.
But if she pulled the same thing, we'd still be calling them out their name. It might be different, but their name ain't gonna enter our mouths. So does that matter? If they're in that position, then and if they pull the same kind of stuff, it feels disrespectful to do that to a woman. Like it really does. It feels disrespectful. And it is. And it's disrespectful to the guy. But does it matter so much if they're in the position? Does that make sense?
Well, it does, man. I mean, and that brings up that brings up just a whole nother subject.
I'm loving this debate, by the way. Or not debate, discussion.
Yeah. You and I are going to have different opinions on this, or maybe. But, the people that were in those roles didn't look like you and I.
Yeah, it's true.
We're kind of an odd looking pair, you and I, right? They look like that guy. They look like that lady who
really did.
Blonde. Yeah. Typical looking guy. But I guess my point is that a woman in that position is less likely to behave that way because they know they're going to be called out of their name, where a guy will do it with
we expect it. We want
complete disregard. Yeah. Complete disregard.
Like if hating me makes you perform better, then hate away.
Yeah. And I guess the point is the whole point is that I wish that companies would treat people across the board equally, and it doesn't happen. Unfortunately, based on their talent, based on what they're capable of doing, and
1,000%.
and
1,000%.
and if you take an approach to hire like that, oh my God, can you imagine the possibilities?
Well, Mo, that's why I made so much money in this business.
Yeah,
is because none of that stuff mattered to me. Yeah. I didn't care. Like I did not care what or who you were. Can you do the job, and can you do it effectively? Dude, we are going to take a break because I really have to. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. And when we come back, and it's for you guys, it's going to seem like a second. You're going to time travel in the future. But we're going to finish this discussion. It's not a debate because we agree. And we're going to talk about Project Alliance. So stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back. You have just been transported in time. You are now. We had to take a much needed break, and during the break, which you know what, we're doing these as live shows. So when I record them, Mo, I put out the raw.
Yeah.
But what I need to be doing is I need to like run a commercial or something like that during breaks. But anyway, we got to talking about politics. We got to talking about philosophy, and Mo was just about to go. Now, here's the thing, and I want people to really hear this. Mo and I are closer in our political views than we're apart. That said, he's on one, if you can call them sides, side of it. I'm on another, but it's the same coin. And he's a patriot. I'm a patriot. We have different diehard patriot.
Love my country.
And you have to love it. You have to love it. It really unnerves me. You have to love it enough to be able to criticize it.
Yeah.
But what I see is that much like the recruiting industry, you got a lot of people that are complaining about certain things without knowing the full spectrum of anything, without understanding politics, without understanding any of it. And but without the love there's no, I mean, what's the point? You know what I mean? It's just, go, in my opinion, I am a love it or leave it kind of guy anymore. I didn't used to be, but you have to love it enough to change it. If you see the change that needs to be had, and there's still change, there's change that we need to make, but you have to love it to come up with solutions. And you're much, you and I just, we read the same books, we were taught in the same way. We had really the same mentor in a lot of ways. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so does she when she sees this, and I hope she does.
Yeah.
But we had mentors in a way that not many people have anymore. And, you have to love it. You have to love. There was a
You have to love it. You have to
King
love it.
King George,
Mhm.
when John Adams walked in, he said, John Adams said that his interest lies, something to paraphrase, his interest lies solely with his country. And King George said, an honest man will have no other. I think we got a lot of dishonest people right now, and it's not really their fault because it's just through programming and through this different things. But we were getting into talking about philosophy, and you and I are both heavy Aurelius fans. Tacitus, I'm sure, is one of them for you. But Aurelius, I don't know if you know this. I'm sure you know this,
I
but
may
I'm
not.
not
I would
sure.
love to learn something new.
Well, I'm not sure if our audience knows. But Aurelius used to have a slave that very close to him, and he would sit in back of him during meetings, or when he was making a ruling or a judgment, and the slave would say, "You're just a man.
I'm aware of that.
You're just a man."
He had somebody reminding him all the time, "You're just a man." And the funny thing is that Marcus Aurelius, the Meditations book, was
Yeah.
simply a journal. His book was never meant to be published.
Right.
So he wanted to um, keep his mind on what was real and what was true.
Yeah.
He talks about the and I think you alluded to this earlier when we were talking about LinkedIn. He talks about the um, unnecessariness, if that's a word, of being praised. It doesn't change anything. Does praising a rose make it any more beautiful than it is? Does praising the color purple make it less or more purple? It doesn't. People are always seeking praise rather than just doing the job and getting their job done. And I think that I know that there's a lesson in that. If you're
Yeah.
not always seeking praise, then you're seeking something else. You're seeking something better, I think. um
Yeah.
but it's Stoic philosophy. I'm, like I was telling you earlier, I'm glad I found it later on in life. Maybe I wasn't meant to find it earlier, if fate is a real thing. But it's helped me tremendously to deal with huge issues,
Mm.
and it's because they're always going to, problems are always going to fall on us. And what we should be grateful for is not having problems, but approaching these problems with a steady mind and a steady hand, and knowing that it's how you face the problems that are important, and how you face challenges in life, and realizing that your good fortune, and facing fortune in the same way. Your good fortune can come and go, and
Certainly can.
being able to you know face fortune with humility, and will give you the opportunity to face the downfall with the same humility. But it's
It's,
an interesting teachings. I'm
well,
glad I found it.
it's interesting, I've been a performer most of my life.
Yeah.
And, part of that, there was a long time where the only place I felt comfortable was on stage. And there was a high of receiving that applause for a job well done that I craved. And it wasn't until later in life that I found out how fickle the praise is.
Right.
And if your life is dedicated toward that praise, then you're really you're gonna be hurt. And there's a selfishness that one gets when they're seeking that all the time. It's one of the reasons why the dopamine hit after a show, during the show, and then after the show, the adrenaline wears off, the dopamine wears off, and then you have to face life, and you know what I mean. And so that's why
Well, you got to face yourself, I would
you
imagine.
got to face yourself. That escape is gone, and now you're still in the same problems. You just gotta put them aside and perform at a different town or at a different date or a different show. And so that's why a lot of these people, and why I wanted to keep the party going.
Yeah.
And after a while, it was party all the time.
Yeah.
It's really detrimental. What I find really that's helped me. For example, we're talking about Marcus Aurelius, right? And these are the meditations of a ruler. If we look at Ecclesiastes, those are the writings of a ruler as well. And if you compare the two,
oh yeah,
Solomon wrote that later in life, and he was really going through a heavy, deep, dark depression. And you can see it in the writing where he's getting to the point where he feels that everything is vanity. None of it means anything. Yeah, and this is in the Bible, right? And he's saying, it's all worthless. Nothing means anything. Everything's vanity. Well, if you look at some of the writings that Aurelius in Meditations, he's saying very similar things.
Yeah.
And you look at it in a way, and understand what I'm trying to say by this. When you're the leader of a company, when you're a CEO, it is one of the hardest jobs one can aspire to. It's often thankless. If you're doing it for constant praise, you will run that company into the ground. Also, you must be decisive and weighing your decisions with the head and the heart. One can't be an effective leader if there's no empathy.
Right.
And one can't be an effective leader if there's no logic. Right? There are two sides of the same coin.
And I think, it's funny, but from time to time, friends of mine or even my wife will say, well, can't you just be late? Not my wife. My wife won't say this because she knows me better. But friends will say, can't you just be late for the meeting or change it? Don't you run the company? And I was like, no.
No.
Well, you're mistaken you're mistaken my role for what people believe it is. It's not. I live in service to others.
Right.
I live in service to people that work with me. I don't think I've ever used the term working for me. And if I have, I've probably tried to correct it. You don't, as a founder of a company or the head of the company, you're in service to others. And if you don't understand that, then yeah, Yeah, it's a weird thing. I think maybe I might change my title to janitor. Everybody loves a janitor. The guy sweeping the floors and stuff like that. He's the
that's what
nicest guy in the room, right? Everybody loves
I
a
mean.
janitor.
But part of cleaning things up is what a CEO does. I mean, look at what JFK did when the Bay of Pigs disaster.
Yeah.
He said he does a press conference a day or two afterwards, and he says, "Victory has 1,000 fathers, and defeat is an orphan." And and that's truer words.
Yeah.
I think here's another thing that's really interesting. Get your thoughts on this.
Mm.
I posted something. You know what? I'm just going to read it. Because I would love to see what you think of this. It's on LinkedIn. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I probably did, but
Is it the one about the feet washing?
Maybe I did not.
Okay. Hold on. Pete's sake. Where is it? So I'm a big fan of The Chosen. I have connections with that show, and I just love it. It's a way to really show all throughout history. History is made by people.
Mm-hmm.
It's people.
Yeah.
And let me read this post. So it starts out as it says vulnerable post, but one that needs posting. It's a short read. So we spent Resurrection Sunday at the movies. 8 hours of season 5 of The Chosen. I walked out emotionally wrecked, spiritually awakened, and carrying a word from God that's reshaping my heart. For years, people have compared me to Peter. I used to chuckle at that, but lately, I've seen just how deeply that comparison runs, especially in the moment when Jesus knelt to wash the disciples' feet. Peter's first reaction was, "Lord, you shall never wash my feet." And that's where I saw myself. But here's the thing, Peter let him. I didn't. I held back. I thought I was honoring God by refusing. I revered him too much to let him lower himself. And here's where it hit me. My reverence, as sincere as it felt, was actually pride in disguise. In other words, have you ever seen people that talk about how humble they are? My humility towers over the most humble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, let me go on.
Yeah.
To help you understand where I'm coming from, let me put it like this, and you know what I'm talking about. I have deep respect for the office of the president. I have, regardless of who holds the title, when the president walks into the room, nobody sits. That's a direct line from The West Wing, if you remember. Martin Sheen goes in, and there's that one person that didn't like him, and he looks at her and he goes, "When the president walks into the room, nobody sits." It was great, and that's always stuck with me. Anyway, and when someone says they serve at the pleasure of the president, it carries honor and weight. Well, serving at the pleasure of the Creator is an even higher honor and is an office that in its very nature commands ultimate authority and obvious respect. But unlike the presidency, God doesn't demand a salute, he kneels. He washes feet. And if we don't let him, we miss the lesson entirely. We miss a lesson entirely. Lessons so multifaceted, a comparison would rival a modern cut diamond in its depth and complexity, and exquisitely beautiful in its first glance simplicity. Jesus didn't just demonstrate servant leadership. He revealed what love does. It stoops low. It meets us in the mess. It asks nothing but vulnerability in return. I said, like Peter, "Then not just my feet, Lord, my hands and head too." But even then, I stopped short of letting him touch. Here's the point. Letting him touch the parts of me that felt too unworthy to expose. But he still reaches. He still washes. He loved me enough to find me. He loves me too much to leave me there in the same place. I love you. Jesus loves you. Let him wash your feet. That, you know, it seems a little, I don't know, esoteric a little bit to describe it in that way. But I really felt that way. I felt, I revered the creator so much that just, no, I don't want you to, I don't want to reveal that. I don't want to, you already know it. But, the whole idea of washing feet, there's so many lessons in it. Servant leadership. You're talking about your CEO. You're serving your people. You're washing the feet of the people that are on mission, right? You make sure that we're all on the same mission. We're all on the same page. And part of that is meeting them where they are, right? It's a big deal. The other part of the feet washing is, and if you look at it from Jesus' day, they wore sandals. Even the Roman legion, all of them wore sandals.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, the shoes we have today keep our feet a heck of a lot cleaner than those things did back in the day. We're talking about open privies.
Yeah.
We're talking about livestock that's walking the street. Those are some dirty feet.
Yeah.
And, I'm a Christian, so I'm obligated to, expose those things in a way that, my relationship is one where he knows everything about me. But there's certain things, and you went through some of it with me, where I just, I didn't know. Thank you for getting me out of it, but, it's too much. And for me, as a leader or whatever, I have to remember that. You know what I mean? And it's something that you have demonstrated my entire time knowing you, is this love for people. You've always loved me.
Yeah.
And I've always loved you.
Yeah.
And, if we don't demonstrate that as leaders of a company or leaders of a division or just leaders of ourselves, then we're going to get what we've always got.
Yeah.
If we, you know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
You can't be the change you want to be without changing who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Or being
you have to evolve.
Well, one of the things that Aurelius talks about, and Seneca and other Stoic philosophers in the Bible, it's funny, but you have this philosophy of Roman Stoicism,
Right?
Who hated Christians,
Right?
but if you look at the doctrine, they're equal. It talks about listening to the divine voice in your head. Mm-hmm. We all have it. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that we ignore it because of, desires or, things that, mm-hmm. that are short-lived. Right. And so and the more you listen to what's already there, the better off you'll be. One of my buddies, Guy, he says to me all the time, Mo, no good deed goes unpunished. And I love him. I love him to death. Love him to death. Him and I are very, very connected. But I hate that because I can't forget it, and it rears its head all the time. All the time. Yeah. You try to be fair. You not try to be, but you be fair, and you do what's right. And it's not rewarded, but it's also not meant to be.
Mm.
You have,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, you have to. I think the more people that have a just mind and or
Mm.
just approach to what they do in this world, the better off we'll be. But there's also the philosophy that you can't have the good without the bad, because we wouldn't know what good was unless there were the bad things. We have this wonderful country with
Mm.
people of all walks of life,
Yeah.
and you still have people that are looking at others as less than, or they go to a restaurant and don't say thank you to the person waiting on them,
Mm-hmm.
or don't have enough respect to say hello or wave to the person doing the gardening in somebody's front yard, because those are people that really
Yeah.
deserve your respect. It's
Well,
not,
but
you
yeah.
know
No, no, no. Well, what's
everybody.
interesting about
Yeah.
that, you know, when like my barber, for example, like the one I've had for years, she retired. She's doing something different now. But artist,
Oh,
I'd always tell her,
no wonder.
I know, she retired. I did find a new one, and you know what's funny? She actually braided my.
I
But
saw
I was,
that.
oh,
I'm
was
like,
that
what the
insane?
hell is he doing?
Insane.
Oh my God.
But
Maybe it's
but
just jealousy, but anyway.
no, 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 no. She was an artist, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Now you look at your gardener, for
yeah.
example. I don't know why people think that that's some sort of I don't know less than. I
I
know
don't either.
when I was in Sacramento, I actually worked for a landscaping service for a while,
Oh yeah.
and it was so fantastic. I feel like you ever read that book Siddhartha? It's supposed to be about how Buddha became Buddha.
I haven't,
I went. It's really
but I'll put it
interesting.
on my list. Yeah,
It's really really interesting. I went through because he was a prince,
yeah,
and he went through this whole time of being poor and being and all that.
yeah,
Well, I did the same thing in a way,
yeah.
and I worked for this lawn service, and this guy or this landscaping service,
Yeah, yeah.
and I learned so much. And I did things I've never done before,
Mhm.
never thought I'd ever do.
Yeah,
And the guy was a true bona fide artist.
yeah,
And he taught his crew how to be an artist. He, ta- you know, you talk about, just different things where, less than, whatever.
yeah,
Um, it's so ridiculous to me. But the thing is that if the person doing the job feels that they're less than,
yeah,
then they will be.
yeah, yeah.
It's unbelievable. I feel like and we can get into all sorts of topics on this, but like racial topics, right?
Mhm.
If you can believe it, you know, you have, let's say you have a black CEO
Mhm.
and you have a white meth head.
Okay.
That white, right? That white meth head in the gutter
Yeah,
could think he's better than that multi-billionaire black CEO. The problem is not if the meth head thinks he's better. The problem is if the CEO believes it too.
I
And
agree.
that's where sort of this divergence lately, where everything is, and we're hyper focused on race again. We're hyper focused on gender again.
Mhm.
All of these things that, you know, like why did this come about? And I believe that it's because for a political purpose. But those of real conscience and those of real experience know it doesn't matter what color somebody is. You can go to the Four Seasons and see the diversity of the melting pot. It doesn't matter. The only color that matters is green.
Yeah,
But when the masses have this hypersensitivity and hyper awareness of this or that, it's a racism so veiled injustice, it hurts my heart to see people falling for it, because it's racism in a way that they are convinced that they are oppressed in some way, but in all actuality, the ones that are the loudest are the ones doing the oppressing. The Karens is what I'm trying to say without saying it. You know what I'm trying to say?
I think that's such a hilarious label. Whoever came up with that,
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's so true.
It's funny as
one of my and there's a Malcolm X quote that describes it perfectly, and you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Was it I'm always happy when chickens come home to roost.
Not that one.
Is that the one? Okay.
No.
There's many of them.
I don't want to say it because I'll get tagged on this thing.
Okay.
Well, I'll text it to you. I'll text you.
There two of my I love autobiographies. Malcolm X by Alex Haley. It's definitely
incredible.
One of my favorite. And it's not because of the things that he did early on in life. It said he brought change about in his life when he went to Mecca and he was sharing his prayer with people all over the world from different races, and he was hosted by a white guy and just couldn't believe what he was experiencing. Came back and realized that we're all the same.
Right.
We're all the same, and once we understand that, we'll live better lives. We'll be able to praise God together.
Well, we're all the same. At the same time, no one will ever have your fingerprint.
No, absolutely.
So there's a beauty in the complexity.
No, and
gorgeous.
There's another biography. Colin Powell. I think it's an autobiography. I forget, but
incredible.
He succeeded because he didn't look at himself the way that others looked at him, because he didn't understand it. Because he didn't understand it, he just focused on the job. I got to do the job at hand. I met this goal. Now I'm going to meet that goal. I met this goal. Now I'm going to meet that goal. And he never saw what others saw in him, which was his different race. And he was Jamaican too, but to everybody else, he was an African American. So yeah, man, it's an incredible thing when we can ignore what's in front of us. Was it Samuel? It wasn't Samuel L. Jackson. Somebody else. He said, "I don't look at race. When I look at you, I look at Brad.
Right.
That's Mo. That's John. That's Sally. Karen."
I mean,
I know a Karen. I know a Karen. She's one of the nicest people I ever met. She works at the company and she does product development for a pharmaceutical company or biotech. Yeah. So
I think it's great that Karens now go into meetings with already the assumption they're going to be terrible.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
You know what I mean? Like, who are we meeting with today? Karen Jones.
Oh, that's so
here we go again.
That's so funny.
I think it's an advantage. I think it's great. I don't know. I just think we're in such a weird time. At the same time, you and I have always looked at difficult times as opportunity. There's an opportunity, like let's say during the .com boom, for example. I just saw it as an opportunity because we all knew it was going to burst, but I saw it as an opportunity when it did burst to be there for the people that are going to be affected. And I made a lot of friends, and not just because they needed a job or they were trying to pump me for market intel. It wasn't that. It was nobody was there. I did, that show I did with Corey Jackson.
Yeah.
And he said he was and I booked him immediately when I saw this. I booked him again when I saw this post on LinkedIn that he put out. And he says he was at the gym and he realized that we are so focused on the fruit we produce, we forget that we're the tree. And it spoke to me so much. He said, when people used to come to football, and let's say they came to see Corey Jackson, they weren't coming to see Corey Jackson. They were coming to see what I did on the football field. And then when the game was over and whatever, and I retired and all that, he said, when when you see an apple tree and it produces fruit, you pick the apple, but you don't worry about the tree. The tree's alone.
Yeah, that's pretty profound. I like
and
that.
I was like, wow, man, that is that's such a big deal.
Because an apple tree only produces fruit for a limited amount of time. If you're not taking care of that tree, then we ended up killing some trees here because they got when we left, they got overwatered, and it was an irrigation problem mainly, but learned something about taking care of a tree. You
don't take care of the tree, it's not going to produce fruit.
Yeah,
it's not going to produce anything. When Jesus cursed the fig tree when he was hangry, he didn't curse the fig, he cursed the tree because it wasn't producing.
Yeah.
And that's significant because it had the earmarks and the leaves, and it should have been producing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
And, there were so many people, during the last 3 years, there have been people that have been baffled, not understanding what was going on, not accepting the reality. I had people tell me I was all wet and I said, no, here's the chart.
What is that? That's like a 70s term or something. You're all wet.
I'm bringing them all back. I'm bringing them back. I'm bringing back fair to Midland. I'm bringing back that. I'm bringing back all wet. My grandmother used to say that. You're all wet.
You got a long road to hoe, my friend.
You got that right. You got that right. But the point was I know what it's like to lose everything.
Yeah.
And then nobody's there.
Yeah.
Nobody. Because nobody wants to be around it.
No.
And then the ones that were using you, that's obvious. That happens right away. You see that right away. But then, when the fruit's gone and when the tree is distressed, oh God, I don't want to be around that. It's going to break, whatever. You and I saw that and we decided we were going to make friends. We were going to start relationships because these same people that are out of it now are, they need somebody. And if it produces something later on, hey, that's great. Yeah. But it was because of the love of the person and the love of the people and understanding where they're coming from.
Well, and it's there's a difference between when I've done some career development talks with the EDD and other colleges and stuff like that. It's really the only public speaking that I like to do because it's about, what I do for a living. Nervous as a cat in a hot tin roof until I get started. But, once I get started, it goes away. But I always talk to people about developing their network. And there's a difference between developing your network when you need something and developing your network to develop a network, to get to know new people. And if you can do that consistently, not because you need something from them, but because you're actually interested in them. It's a huge difference. We get a lot of people that are outside because we get a lot of referrals. We get a lot of people that are outside of our business verticals that are focused in, maybe free clinical as an example or something like that, that we really can't help. I always take the time to talk to them because I may not be able to help them directly, or we may not be able to help them directly, but perhaps the conversation with them will help them in some way. Um, you know, I think when you're doing something to get something out of it, as opposed to doing something because of interest or love. We talked a lot about love.
Mhm.
I love my country. So when it comes to politics and stuff like that, I have my opinion about the things that I want, the things that are important to me. So
Yeah.
when I'm looking at politics, I take the time to do some research and to do a
Yeah.
deep dive. You told me something before we went back on air. I told you I don't believe you, but I'm going to take the time to look it up
Yeah.
because perhaps you're right, and perhaps my belief can be changed. It's interesting stuff, man. Uh,
Well, what's really interesting, like on that line, is political scientists have used a lot of sort of like this human endeavor to be right, right,
mhm,
and they've used it to a great degree to the detriment of the country
mhm.
for the sole purpose of winning. If you keep a populace, and this is both sides,
Yeah,
if you keep a populace really mad all the time,
yeah,
where it's constant reaction, constant, right?
yeah,
Then you sow the seeds of division.
yeah.
And, you know, like say, uh, like sort of on the conservative side, what's really interesting is like you have philosophies that have been sort of washed and rewashed
Mhm.
with branding and different marketing,
Yeah.
but it's the same philosophy. For example, you have so like the Democratic Party, like when it started, you
Uh-oh.
had. I'm just telling you, this is what
Okay,
happened.
okay, all right.
So it was founded. The Democratic Republicans were
Yeah,
founded by Thomas Jefferson,
yeah.
and you had the Democratic Republicans and the Whigs. What
The
happened
wigs, yeah.
during the say 1800 to 1822, there was a huge split in the Whig Party and with the Democratic Republicans, to the extent that the Democratic Republicans folded in the latter part of 1823, to be then restarted by Martin Van Buren in 1824. At that point, the Whigs completely disregarded, and that were the conservatives of the day.
Yeah.
They disregarded the populist movement that Van Buren got a hold of, and by 1828, you had Andrew Jackson. So he was the first Democrat of the modern era president, right? And then from there, it just went on. So really, what you had is disaffected Whigs and disaffected um, Democratic Republicans that made the Democratic Party. The thing is by they consolidated power so brilliantly that by 1860, 1859 to 1860, when the country was expanding, they were heavy on keeping the status quo, and the Republicans, who became more, there was a founding of, again, disaffected Democrats and Whigs, but abolitionists. That was a
Yeah.
huge threat to their power base, and
Yeah.
we fought a war over it.
Yeah.
Anybody who says it wasn't over that is so wrong. And how I know that is Calhoun, who was the vice president, made it very clear. in his address to the Confederacy. And also, if you look at $100, I think it's $100 or a $20 Confederate dollar, they have slaves on their money.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, but you and I were talking about this, and this whole two-party deal. There's a lot of history that points to the weakness of that. There's actually
Absolutely.
a saying. It comes from an anime movie. It says over specialization breeds in weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the way that I look at it is it's we're over specialized. We, above all, our founding fathers they were brilliant men, because what they designed was a constitution that would move through time.
Mm-hmm.
And above all of this division that we have, whether it be religious division, or it's all nonsense. We are, and all, I hope will always will be, a united America.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it in 9/11.
I hate to say it, but it was such a beautiful time.
Well, it was.
I mean,
I remember where I was, and
yeah, me too.
and at that point, when tragedy struck, we were all Americans.
All Americans. That's what I mean by it was beautiful. Is that we were so united. There were people that I knew that had been retired from the military 10, 15 years, and they were like, I want to rejoin.
Let's go.
Like, I really do.
Dude, when I guess the military taught me a lot. Taught me about work ethic, because you don't have a choice of not getting a job done.
No choice.
I'm going to go to bed. Yeah, you're not going to bed until
it's done.
Until that wire rope is slushed, and
right.
and then you can go to bed. But it also brought us together. My daughter was traveling across country. She got this wild hair and wanted to travel from here to Florida. Went to New Orleans and stuff like that. And it was during the holidays. I called two of my buddies in Austin and around the area just to catch up.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, she's come. My daughter's driving through, and we keep in touch. The military guys keep in touch all the time.
Yeah.
And Rick Dunn, who was my rescue swimmer for the boat. I was a boat coxswain, and so I drove the rescue boats and stuff like that. Rick Dunn got in oil, became pretty wealthy. He's like, dude, I'm not going to be at home, but I will leave the keys to the guest house at the front door if she wants to go there.
There you go.
Jason McElroy, who was also in my division, he's like, dude, I'm going to be celebrating Thanksgiving with my family. Have her come spend time with us. So, that's the type of unity, and we're on different planes politically, right?
Right.
They don't give a shit. I don't.
Doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And I think when we can realize what happened during the tough times, what happened during 9/11, what happened during the Boston Marathon. I've met some people from Boston, and they can be pretty gruff. But what happened during that marathon, when the tragedy struck, everybody became united there. And I think we have to, politically, I think we have to realize that. We have to realize it and stop. I don't know how this conversation got into that, but
but what I'm saying, the reason I mentioned the history, right? Because I'm a former Democrat, and the reason I mention that history is what I see is a washing and a rewashing of history.
Oh yeah,
and then there's the audacity. Like, for example, after World War II, they're like, how are we gonna frame this? Like this, like I don't,
Yeah.
Point is that understanding that there's a game being played,
Yeah.
you're either going to stop playing the game, understand that the game is being played, or you're going to play it in some way.
Yeah. You know,
Let's be honest about it.
I was talking to, I forget who it was, and the Great Migration of the 1930s came up. That's how my family came here. And they said, "What's that?" You know, and this was a pretty educated person. I'm sure that there are going to be some listeners if they allow you to put this up.
What's going up?
There are going to be some listeners. They're going to be, what? Great Migration? What's
the
that?
Great Migration?
Yeah, I mean that it's
please explain it.
Well, no, the Great Migration happened in 1930s with Jim Crow South and African Americans were getting slaughtered, and they decided, I would rather pick up everything and move across the country with nothing, and run the risk of dying of starvation, dying of thirst. I mean, we're talking about people walking across country to get away from that, than to stay and be oppressed for generations to come. So yeah, my grandmother ended up here in well, not here, I'm in the Central Valley now, but ended up in San Jose, California. My uncles were picking apples when San Jose was just an orchard. And a lot of families came here and found their way. A lot of the California was settled by African Americans. People don't realize that. But yeah, history can be not easily, but can be washed away. I'm happy that everybody's walking around with cameras now, because it's a lot more difficult to oppress a society when everybody's able to view what's going on.
So true.
Something.
And one of the reasons I came on this side of the aisle was because I researched the history. Who was in charge during the Great Migration in terms of governors, senators? How come people don't understand that after the Civil War, the South had African American representatives, African American senators? How come people don't understand that it was Andrew Johnson that put a halt to everything that Lincoln wanted done? How come people don't understand that?
Yeah.
Well, how come people don't understand that it was Grant? It was Grant. Now, for all the things that he was accused of, he was trying to get us back on track. And it just
Lincoln's they did a special, I think, I forget what channel it was on, about the history of Lincoln. And he did some great things, but the history of his downfall, or not downfall, but his mistakes and stuff like that, it's been washed away. His wife was a big driver. Mary Lincoln or whatever?
Mary Todd Lincoln, yeah.
Yeah. She was a big driver of what he did. I mean, she had him by the apron strings, or he had her by the apron strings, whatever they want to call it.
It was really interesting. His evolution of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was always a great orator. Always.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But and people always go back to that letter that if he could save the Union by freeing everybody, he would. If he could save it by freeing nobody, he would. But people don't understand is that given the climate of the day, once the war was over and we won, he had, like, you got to remember, he had Frederick Douglass in his ear.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
mean,
know, he had,
talk about a great man. Well,
come on.
he was also quite the womanizer. But
I mean, you know what? I was talking to Erica about
so
this
was
the other
Martin
day.
Luther King, but people don't.
Well, but
People
here's
don't
the
think about
thing. Let's look at this.
that. Yeah.
If you look at TV shows from 67
Mhm.
going into the 70s, even the late 50s, aside from I Love Lucy, there began this there began this disenfranchisement of marriage. In other words, it was like a death sentence, and it was funny, you know,
Mhm.
but it kept going for the next 40 years, where people would downplay and say how awful marriage was, right? And people, even in my family, I thought it was par for the course for you to have a girlfriend, two, three, or four while you were married. I thought that was what you did.
Mhm.
I swear to God,
Oh
I
no,
really do.
dude, it's there. There's, I mean,
Isn't
I
that
am.
incredible?
No, it is. You know, they're like NPR is one of my favorite radio stations.
Oh,
Michael
Lord Jesus.
Michael Krasny,
Yeah.
it wasn't NPR, it was KQED, and but it was
Uh-huh.
same thing. He this guy was one of the best interviewers on the planet. He's retired now.
Yeah.
Great interview. You look at like Howard Stern. No, people don't want to, don't want to don't want to listen to Howard Stern because of what he does. But when it comes to interviewing people, oh my God, the guy can get people to admit to so many different things that they didn't want to initially.
Yeah.
His best
You know
guess
what's
was his mom, though. Oh my
well, you know what somebody told me this. My friend Eric O'Rourke told me this. He said, "What's interesting about you is that you get to the why behind the why,"
Yeah.
and that's something that I wasn't taught. I'm just interested.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
it
And these
happens.
people,
You're
like
interested.
Stern,
Yeah.
you're just interested. It's just
Yeah.
like, why, like, what is the thing that and you know, that's the thing. People aren't interested in the why behind the why anymore.
Right.
It's, you know what I mean?
Well,
And
it
that's where we
was,
got to get back to.
you know, the term, so the Black Lives Matter movement, right? I don't want to get political, but this, it's
We're
maybe I
already
do.
there.
Maybe I do. I'm already there. But it's interesting. There are people that agree with it. There are people that disagree with it, that kibosh it. But the term "all lives matter" wouldn't have happened unless that term happened. But Krasny was interviewing this when they had just started. He was interviewing one of the lead members of Black Lives Matter movement, and this goes back to the history thing that we were talking about. And they were doing a march in Lake Merritt, and this guy's on his front yard, older white dude, you know, I was kind of overweight, not real, not a big dude. And somebody just one of the members of the Black Lives Matter movement, somebody just attacked the guy, punched him in the stomach, and they were covering this on KQED. And Michael Krasny was interviewing this person as part of the movement, young lady, and she kept repeating the term by any means necessary. And you and I
Oh,
know where that came
dude.
from. By any means necessary. And he asked her, do you know what that means or know where it came from?
No.
She started trying to dance around, couldn't answer the question or why that came about. Do you know why that came about? Is a totally different reason. So yeah, I think that that kind of thing happens a lot, unfortunately, which
Well,
means that we're never going to not never, but we're going to have a more difficult time learning from those things and learning from those mistakes that we've made.
Yeah, but no, I think, and I agree. Well, okay, here's where I disagree. We have to be willing to say you're wrong.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to, you know what's really interesting?
We have to be willing to be wrong too.
1000%. You know, and the thing is I've seen where like movements, political parties, whatever, become these cult like.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like there's segments of the Democratic Party that complete, and somebody leaves the Democratic Party, suddenly they're shunned, like they're Jehovah's Witnesses. You know what I mean? Like they're you know, and they're called a racist or an Uncle Tom or whatever. And you know, and then you have these, and I just think, I don't think these people are even real. But then you have MAGA people that used to like, if you disagreed with Trump at all, then you were suddenly ostracized and this and that and the other. What I've seen is people of good conscience, both conservative, MAGA, and liberal and Democrat. We agree on more than we don't. But what I find is that the ones, like all of us that agree more than we don't, have a good understanding of history. And we can see where things are shifting, because we've seen the shift before. And it's a small minority that, just like before, and just like the Alinskys of the world, and it's an old playbook, Mo, and they are the loudest. A couple of examples in Rules for Radicals. He says that you accuse your opponent of what you're doing. So I guess that's what we call gaslighting, or is that right? So you accuse.
I think gaslighting is different, but that is a new term. I don't know how they came up with using gaslighting to make people think that they're crazy, or to try to make people think that they're. I don't know.
Something like that. Well, you accuse your opponent of what you're doing. Yeah. And now we've seen that in spades. And then the loudest voice will get the eyes. So whatever the issue is, you know, we saw this in 2020. Whatever the issue is, make yourself the loudest voice, and then people will think that that's a majority. And now what we're seeing is that there's a lot of people can see that it's all BS. It's a game. And there's people that do that have no relevance whatsoever, but they're trying to, I guess, gaslight people into thinking that they do. And I swear, for a while, I'm like, and I've said this before, it feels like the world has been on a meth binge for almost a decade, and it needs rehab. And I think suddenly people are looking at the situation and saying, you know what? I was wrong. Finally. And that's what we need.
Yeah.
No matter what stripe you are.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree. I don't necessarily agree with you.
Which one? The meth binge?
The meth binge. It's a horrible analogy, first of all.
I'm just saying. I mean, have you seen more crap that's come? No, I mean, my God.
I think that.
Did you see? I'm sorry, one more time.
Yeah.
Did you see the woman that fought, not in the Olympics, but when it first started going on about 10 years ago, there was a woman that fought
I thought you
a
were going to start
man,
talking about the Australian breakdancer.
ray gun,
Oh my God.
ray gun. I mean, how did that even happen, dude?
I've never seen
Like
any,
how
dude. We grew up breakdancing. I've never seen
did that
anything like that
happen?
in my life. How did it? I mean, come on,
I
man.
mean,
They were going
I
to
was
the wrong
shocked. I couldn't believe
neighborhoods.
it. I couldn't believe it,
Oh
dude.
my
It was crazy.
God. I
But
was
there was a woman.
somebody said that to me. I said, okay, this is just a joke.
I thought it was a
Wait a
joke.
wait a
I
minute.
really
Are you
did.
serious? I didn't know that was an Olympic.
I'm telling you, I hardly watched any of the Olympics
Oh
this
my
past
God.
Olympics because I just thought this is the most ridiculous crap I've ever seen. Most of it. Anyway, there was a woman that fought a man who said they were a woman, and he caused brain damage.
There's a woman that fought. Wait a minute. There's a woman that
Yeah,
fought
there's
a
a guy.
man.
There's a guy, and it was a UFC, not UFC, but it was a UFC type event.
Okay.
And there was a guy said they were a woman.
Okay. Yeah.
Got in the octagon with an actual woman,
With a woman. Got it.
and he didn't just put her in traction. She's got brain damage now, like she's done.
Yeah. Well.
And that's what I mean by meth binge. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God. You talk
Yeah.
about misogyny.
Yeah.
That's misogyny. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I think I think that I think the older that I get, the more from a personal standpoint, John Lennon and the Beatles, they had the right message.
They'd be Republicans today.
Let it. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know about that, but words of wisdom. Let it be, man. Let people be what they want to be. But yeah, the whole
1,000%.
the whole
1,000%.
UFC thing. I think I don't like. I like boxing.
I love boxing.
Yeah, I like boxing.
I'm in
There's
UFC.
but UFC is just If you're gonna get in that ring, man, woman, or otherwise, you're gonna risk brain damage. Because it's so violent. Yeah,
I get it, but
no, I get you. I get.
But you get my point.
I get your point. But they let that shit happen. So
it's just it was heartbreaking. It just was terrible.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It's like just straight.
But you think, but if the other side of the coin is that the woman that was born a woman, or that is an actual woman. I don't even like that term, an actual woman, but the woman that was born a woman chose to get in the ring with a woman that was born a man. So
I mean,
yeah, you're gonna.
But if she didn't, she'd be called a bigot.
Or
see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
Well,
it's like
not.
It's like, come on,
or not.
She would have been,
I don't know.
And it sucks. And the thing is that the mental gymnastics we have to go through to just let people do what they want to do, let them be what they want to be.
Yeah,
it's like,
you're gonna get in the ring with anybody. You're gonna risk brain damage. And maybe
you see what I'm trying to say.
Maybe I got it. But maybe she wanted to earn the reputation of beating someone who used to be a man and became a woman. Who knows? I don't know.
But I just think that even that option is wrong. It's almost like going back to Roman times and having the guy fight a tiger. You know what I mean? Like they would have humans fight actual animals.
Yeah,
and then they
killed
Christians, and they were
Romans were around for a long time. Who knows if they didn't have it right?
That maybe, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I can only espouse my beliefs in terms of what what my political views are. I can't take that approach through somebody else's belief. Or, I think we're so stuck on people making their own choices and being who they want to be, and worrying about that and how people decide to love one another. It's
1,000%.
who gives a rat's ass if you want to be if you're born a man and you think that you've always been a woman and that's what you want to do it. More power to you. If you're born a woman or born with the female genitalia and you've always felt like a man, do that shit. You want to be in between, do that shit. That's the least of our concerns. How we get along with each other and how we treat one another and the manners that we have towards one another, that's the most important. Being tolerant of each other. Tolerance is people find it hard to do. I don't know.
Well, because you
don't understand
because you're tolerating something. You know what I mean? I've never heard of anything.
Oh yeah, it's true.
It's like oh my God, that guy's snoring so much.
You've got a point. But even in so there's an analogy, and I'm going to misquote it, but it's a Stoic philosophy. It says, well, how can you be upset with the man whose armpits stink? He has such armpits. How can you be upset with the man whose breath stinks? He has such a mouth. If you can try to help him, try to tell him, hey man, do something about your armpits, do something about your breath. But may you be as successful finding your own faults as you are pointing his out.
1,000%. Yeah. I agree with that.
Something like that.
And I want the audience to know this. You see how this conversation goes? You understand how Mo and I don't agree on this stuff.
No.
But I love him. I respect his opinion. He loves me. He respects mine. I don't have to agree with him on everything. But
you can be wrong.
I love him.
You can be wrong as much as you want. I still love him.
He can be wrong. He can be as wrong as he likes.
Yeah, I never followed football or anything like that. I really didn't know who Cory Booker was until you told me about him.
Corey Jackson.
Or Corey Jackson.
Don't insult the guy.
I'm sorry. Corey Jackson. And
don't insult Corey Jackson.
I got it.
Gosh.
I got it. I misspoke. Sorry, Corey Jackson. But yeah, I never followed football, but I like his philosophy. I think it's cool that he came into this industry, and I like your interviews with him.
Man, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
he's really, I love that guy. I want to, you know what? I need to get you two together, actually.
Oh, I would love
because I think he's got a model. It's a lot like the MPA model, where you have a network of recruiters. You'd have to explain it to you, but it's like you have a network of recruiters working with someone's client, and the commissions are incredible because it's, a lot of the recruiters, I think he has some recruiters working on commission only.
Okay.
In this model.
So like a consortium model.
Yes. A lot of, but I'm probably totally way off base on it, but you guys should get together, and I think it'd be wonderful.
I always love meeting people, different people in our industry, and I
Yeah,
mean, we meet people for a living. My friends
absolutely.
some of my friends think I'm quiet because yeah, I talk for a living.
Not with the mules in you, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You know better. Hey, we were actually talking about. Remember that Star Wars theme place that we went to?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Amy and I were talking about that yesterday. That
dude.
was so cool.
I'm gonna be back there. Well, I'm in the middle of my travel season right now, so I'm gonna be in
Well,
Florida, and
give me a heads up because we
I
are
will.
located in the Central Valley, but we still have ties in San Jose. The office space is still in San Jose. We
Okay.
still have our home in San Jose. So,
Well,
yeah,
um, I got to get back there and see
yeah,
you. I think it'd be so cool. You know what we should do? We should do a show in your office because the what you guys have. I mean, it's just so dope with
Oh,
that office.
we moved from that office, bought another space, and then
Okay.
remodeled that. But because of what's happened, we're in the process of selling that office.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but yeah, well, yeah, the market's not
I mean,
what it should be, but it is what it is. But we put our own twist on that too, and it was this, it was this dodgy looking, you know, stuffy office that looks like every other office, and we did the floors, and it's and when it was so nice, and when people would walk by, they'd want to come in and look at the office because it was cool.
well,
It was cool.
what I saw was super dope.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
the
That
Star
that
Wars
was a
stuff.
Star Wars stuff, and you can see my
Yeah.
my lightsaber in the back.
Yeah, there it is.
We went to Disneyland for my wife's birthday, and I hate Disneyland.
Yeah.
I do not
Yeah.
like Disneyland because of the crowds. Drives
Yeah.
me crazy. But I had to go because it was my wife's birthday, and her and my daughter made the mistake of taking me to the Star Wars exhibit, and dude, I had never been, and you know how much I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
I had never been, and it was like I was in the movie. And my daughter said, "Dad, I have never seen you smile so much, so
Yeah.
long in my life." I had this smile that was just glued on for the
Yeah.
entire day. I made my own lightsaber. I went to try on the Jedi cowls, right? And or robes with people. So, and my daughter's like, "Do you want it, Dad? Do you want it?" Well, I'm gonna go make the lightsaber, and do you want it, Dad? Okay, I'll get it. Dude, I was walking around in Jedi robes the entire time. It was
Dude.
so funny, man.
You know what?
It was a time of a lifetime for me.
You got to send me a new picture for the show anyway.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
have somebody take your like if Priscilla's there or your wife, take a picture of you holding that lightsaber and we'll
Oh
use it
God,
for the show.
there's a picture. There's a picture.
There's a picture of it. You got to send
There's
that
a
one to me.
Oh man, it's so
We'll call
embarrassing.
this. We'll call this. You know, a conversation. CEO insights with Maurice the Jedi Little.
Jesus.
God,
I will reluctly, because it came up. I will reluctantly send it to you. It's pretty,
I love it. I love it.
It's pretty funny.
Guys, you know what? I don't even think we're gonna do final thoughts here. I think we could do final thoughts. You want to do final thoughts and then we'll wrap it?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Let me
Check this out, Brad.
Is he?
This is a photo. It's my grandfather.
Wow.
When he was young. My uncle found that and sent that to me. He was
that is so
isn't that cool? Yeah, he's a handsome dude. Yeah, he was
that is so cool.
He was a Baptist minister, and then Pentecostal. Yeah.
Well, see, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just telling you, little Baptist. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Guys, stay tuned for final thoughts. We'll be right back. All right, we're here. Final thoughts. Back with Maurice Little, CEO of Project Alliance. This conversation, for one, needed to happen. For two, and the reasons it needed to happen is because we got to demonstrate. Number one, we're fully aware of the times that we're in. Number two, there needs to be an adherence to service, to respect, and to, just an understanding that no matter where someone is and whatever they're doing, the element of respect and understanding that people are people need to be at the forefront, in my opinion. I love Mo. I almost always take his advice on things. This man helped me at a time where I was unhelpable. And I'll always love him for that. And the man is never, it's so funny. You said your granddad was a Baptist minister, Baptist Pentecostal minister. There's something about generational love that I am convinced is supernatural. And he showed that, the love of Christ, if you will, toward me. And that's what he does with his people. And I'm honored that you're my friend. I'm honored
Likewise.
that you never gave up on me.
Likewise.
And when there was a lot of people in your ear telling you how, whatever, whoever, calling me out my name, you never did. And no. I love you. And that's it. Final thoughts.
Love you too, man. So I wanted to plug, if you will, Project Alliance. So Project Alliance is this phenomenal group of people. And what we're doing is we're changing the scope of how companies hire. In the conclusion is that once we implement our methodologies, companies will no longer have to rely on outside resources ever again. They will be able to hire successfully, reduce attrition with 1/10 of the effort that they're using now. We've put together a group of gurus that are experts in recruiting, business development, human resources, onboarding. And we're implementing this model across the board. We're looking at right now, we're talking to venture capital companies that are launching new companies and teaching them how to hire and how to do it successfully, reduce attrition considerably, and save a ton of money that they will be able to use to pay better salaries and retain their people and have a cohesive group of employees and leaders within their organization. So
Project Alliance is amazing. The idea that you can do that is absolutely incredible. I want to, let me see. I want to be able to make sure that people see it. Project Alliance on LinkedIn. Now, can they find you on the web?
Yeah, we have a phenomenal website. We're actually giving out
Is it projectalliance.com?
project-alliance.com.
Project
Yeah.
hyphen .com.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
For a limited amount of time, we're actually giving away free sessions for companies that are looking to grow.
Nice.
Being able to tell them how to grow, solve problems that they're having, and those looking to develop their career. It's for a limited time, but it's something that we're doing. This industry has been very good to us, and what we're doing essentially is we're giving away industry secrets that
I love it.
that people aren't aware of. Because I want to, I've been doing this for a long time, man, and I think that if we can take the methodologies that we've used to help many companies be successful at one time. I mean, you think about how many companies we would manage at one time between the two of us, 50, 20, 30. If you can do that, you can do it with one company successfully. And
That's right.
yeah. So that's what we're doing. And we got a great team: Jason, Amy, Letitia, Chelsea, Matt. And these people aren't doing it because of money. They're doing it because they believe in what we're doing. And it's crazy. Belief
Love it.
Belief is a crazy motivator.
Well,
yeah.
Who knows what the future holds? Who knows? I might join the alliance at some point.
Oh man, that would be
Could you imagine?
Yeah, you and I would probably have way too much fun. We do have a lot of fun though. We start every meeting off with a game, or I'm a big proponent of dad jokes. Love dad jokes.
They're the best.
Oh, they are.
I mean, I'm sorry, but they're the best. I love that.
You heard about that guy? He's always late. He's always running late. And then we'll finish. He's always running late. So he gets in the car, and him and his family are going to the airport, and our kids are in the car and they're running late, and he's looking for his keys. He can't find his keys, and he looks over to his wife and he goes, "I can't find my keys." Without thinking, she takes off her pants, rolls them up in a ball, rubs the ignition, and the car starts. She puts her pants back on. He looks over, he goes, "Honey, how did you do that?" She goes, "Those are my cargo pants."
I love that. I see what you did there. You thought it might be a little dirty, a little on the blue side, but it was more all on the dad side. I love that.
It's a dad joke.
Guys, I will. You know what? I will speak for Mo. I'm gonna ask him. Do you love the people watching?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my God. I wish I had. Yeah, I'm an introvert by nature, and there are times when I wish I wasn't, because there's some people that just have their own style, and I just want to take their pictures. With and go up and ask them to take their pictures. There was this dude once, and he's leaning on a pole, smoking a cigarette, and he's got his back towards us, and long hair, and he just looks like this tough biker dude. And right next to him was a scooter, and he gets on the scooter. And he drives away, and the only thing I could think is, man, that guy's got style. He's got his own thing going on.
He definitely is brave.
But
I'll tell you that. Well, let's speak. I got to tell you, for everyone at Project Alliance, for everyone, Work Your Career Wednesday, Jane's Physical Therapy, White Husky Films, Puente Coffee, and so many people that have hitched their wagon to us. Let me tell you, we love you, and God bless you. And let His face shine upon you and give you great peace. Be excellent to yourself and each other, and we'll see you next week And Mo, I love you. I love you, man,
Love you
more
too.
than you'll ever know.
I love you too. Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week.